Yeah, they came out. Okay.
What's going on, everybody? Greetings. This your girl Tiffany coming through right here live in effect. So today's topic, I want to deal with a town, an all African American town that was founded in Florida around 1738. Now it's part of the National Park Museum. It is called Fort Mose, Florida. That's the name of the town, Fort Mose, Florida. So we're gonna look into some information history, and then I'm gonna play a little small video clip. But before I go on, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the notification bell. Make sure you share this video and do all that good stuff. All right. So let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Okay. So as you can see, we're looking at Fort Mose Historic State Park. Now it's a park. All right. It was originally known as Garcia Rio de Santa Teresa de Mose. It's a U.S. National Historic Landmark designated as such on October the 12th of 1944. Located 2 miles north of St. Augustine, Florida, on the edge of a salt marsh on the western side of the waterways separating the mainland from the coastal barrier islands. Okay. It says the original site on the 18th century fort was uncovered in a 1986 archaeological dig. The 24-acre site is now protected as Florida State Park, administered through the Anastasia State Recreation Area. Fort Mose is the premier site on the Florida Black Heritage Trail. In 1738, the Spanish governor of Florida, Manuel de Matanos, had Fort Mose built and established as a free settlement, the first to be legally sanctioned in what would become the territory of the United States. The fort has also been known as Fort Moza or Formosa, variants of the Spanish pronunciation. Okay. So here go the historical background. So as you can see, the historical background goes as early as 1687, the Spanish government had begun to offer asylum to slaves from British colonies. In 1693, the Spanish crown officially proclaimed that runaways would find freedom in Florida in return for converting to Catholicism, which is the Catholic religion, and a term for men of 4 years military service to the crown. By 1742, Spain had effectively created a maroon settlement in Florida as a frontline defense against English attacks from the north. Spain also intended to destabilize the plantation colony, the plantation economy of the British colonies by creating a free black community to attract slaves seeking escape and refuge from British slavery. All right. So basically, peace. So basically, this town was built for those who were trying to get away from the from the British slavery and getting away from the plantation. So the town was built for African Americans who was trying to seek freedom in order to have a place where they could call their own community, their own land, and etc. All right, so okay. So real quick. All right, it says in 1738, Governor Montano ordered construction of the Garcia Rio de Santa Teresa de Mose military fort about 2 miles north of St. Augustine. Slaves who had escaped from the British colonies were directed there. They were recognized as free, and men who passed inspection were taken into Spanish militia and placed into service. The military leader at the fort, who also served as the de facto leader of the Maroon community, was Francisco Menendez, a Mandinka African born in the Gambia region along the Gambia River. He had been captured by slave traders and shipped to the colony of North Carolina, where from where he, like many other black slaves, escaped and sought refuge in Spanish Florida. He was appointed captain of the slave militia at St. Augustine in 1726 by Governor Antonio de Benavides and reappointed to this position by each successive governor of the province. His status as a leader was solidified with the Spanish authorities when he helped defend the city from an English attack led by the Colonel John Palmer in 1728 and distinguished himself by his bravery. Right, so then going down here, it says Fort Mose was the first free African settlement legally sanctioned in what would become the United States and had a total population of about 100. The village had a wall around it with dwellings inside as well as church and earthen fort. Menendez was freed by Governor Matanio in 1738 on the condition that he converted to Catholic faith and baptized as Francisco Menendez. So then it talks about hundreds of thousands of enslaved Africans were imported in the 18th century to the Carolinas, where their labor was essential to the plantation economy. Word of the settlement of free blacks at Mose reached the colonies of South Carolina and Georgia and attracted escaping slaves. Fellow blacks and their Indian allies helped runaways flee southward to Florida. The Spanish colony needed skilled laborers, and the freemen strengthened St. Augustine's military forces. In 1738, the Spanish governor established the runaways in their own fortified town, officially known as Garcia Ria de Santana Teresa de Mose, but usually referred to simply as Mose in governmental documents of the period. This administrative action followed the example of colonial governments in the Caribbean, enabling the Spanish to hold and populate territory threatened by the Carolinians. The existence of Fort Mose is believed to have helped inspire the Stono Rebellion in September of 1739. This was led by slaves who were fresh from Africa. During the Stono Revolt, several dozen Africans believed to be from the Kingdom of Congo tried to reach Spanish Florida. Some were successful and they rapidly adjusted to life there as they were already baptized Catholics. Congo was a Catholic nation and spoke Portuguese. Now, let's start right there. And this is to ADOS people. As I read that, as you can see, a lot of those slaves, right, that came over to Florida, they were either from Gambia or they were from the Congo area. Okay. So chances are, if you go look at your genetics, you may come to find out, especially if you're from the Florida area, that you may have ancestors that's either from the Congo or from Gambia. Again, the sources right there, you can't deny the African lineage and all this. Oh, they don't claim us, this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter what they don't claim. Okay. It's in your genetics. It's in your bloodline. It is what it is. Let's continue. Now, it says, as a military outpost, Mose defended the northern approach to St. Augustine, the capital of La Florida. Most of its inhabitants came originally from numerous different tribal and cultural groups in West Africa, predominantly Congos, Carabolas, and Mandingos, and had been taken as slaves to the English province of North Carolina and South Carolina. excuse me. While struggling to make their way to freedom in Florida, they had frequent interaction with many Native American peoples. By successfully defending their freedom in Spanish Florida in the mid 18th century, the black inhabitants of Fort Mose had a significant role in contemporary political conflicts between English and Spain in the southeast. Now check this out. The people of Mose had made political alliance with the Spaniards along with their Indian allies and took up arms against their former masters. The black militia fought beside Spanish regular soldiers to drive away the English forces under General James Oglethorpe, who attacked St. Augustine in 1740. These black troops also fought in the Spanish counterattack against the Georgia colony in 1742. Following the murder of some inhabitants at the fort by Indian allies, a British Matanio ordered it abandoned and its inhabitants resettled in St. Augustine. In 1740, British force led by James Oglethorpe of Georgia attacked and captured the fort in the siege of Fort Mose. Okay, we'll look at that later if I have enough time. During the ensuing conflicts, a Floridian force consisting of Spanish troops, Indian auxiliaries, and free black militia counterattacked Oglethorpe's troops and defeated them decisively, destroying the fort in the process. Oglethorpe was eventually forced to withdraw his forces to Georgia. Because the fort was destroyed, its inhabitants stayed in St. Augustine. By 1752, the Spanish had rebuilt Fort Mose. The new governor forcefully relocated most of the free blacks back into the defensive settlement from the more cosmopolitan or multilingual culture of St. Augustine. All right. So check this out. John Oglethorpe, right? The college, there's a university that's named after him. It's called the University of Oglethorpe. And it's way out on the northern part of Atlanta. Okay. It was named after him. So it's out in Chamblee, Georgia, I believe. Yeah, but as you can see, it was a haven, a safe haven for slaves, former slaves, to not ever have to go back into the plantation to get away from the British. So the promise was as long as they served in the military and they converted to the Catholic religion, they were fine. But let's see what else we can find real quick. All right, so it says after East Florida was ceded to the British in the Peace of Paris of 1763, most of the free black inhabitants immigrated to Cuba with the evacuating Spanish settlers. At that time, the black population at St. Augustine and Fort Mose totaled about 3,000, of whom about 3/4 were escaped slaves. Okay. All right. So now we're going to go down to here where it says modern identification and recovery of the Fort Mose site. All right. So as you can see, it's a historical part. So let me pull up the picture so you guys can see it. Now it's a historical part. It's called Fort Mose Historic State Park. All right. It says the site was abandoned when Spanish Florida became British in 1763, and it was leveled by the British in 1812 and forgotten. In 1968, motivated by the recent 1963 to 1964 racial violence in St. Augustine, Frederick Eugene Jack Williams, a longtime St. Augustine resident historian and amateur archaeologist, located the site from an old map and purchased the land and began a campaign supported by the Black Caucus in the Florida legislature to have the site excavated. Check this out. So during 1986 to 1988, a team of specialists, the Fort Mose research team led by Kathleen Deacon of the Florida Museum of Natural History and under the supervision of John Marin of the University of Florida performing archaeological and historical investigation at Fort Mose. Their discovery showed that Africans played important roles in the geopolitical conflicts between England and Spain in the southeast of what is now the United States. And it says document examined by historian Jane Landers in the colonial archives of Spain, Florida, and Cuba and South Carolina reveal who lived in Mose and some idea of what their lives were like in the settlement. In 1759, the village consists of 22 palm thatched huts housing 37 men, 15 women, 7 boys, and 8 girls. The people of Mose grew their own crops, and their men stood guard at the fort or patrolled their frontier in service to the crown. They attended mass in a wooden chapel where their priests also lived. Most of them married other refugees, but some married Indian women or slaves who lived in St. Augustine. All right. In the first year of excavating, the archaeologists uncovered remains of fort structures, including its moat, clay dubbed earthen walls, and the wooden structures inside the walls. They found a wide assortment of artifacts, military paraphernalia such as gun flints, lead shot, metal buckles, and hardware, household items such as pipe steams, was it I think it's pronounced as thimbles. Yeah, thimbles, nails, ceramics, and bottle glass, and food remnants such as burnt seeds and bone. Fort Mose location on a small tidal channel called Mose Creek gave the Mose settlers access to the Esteron mud flats, oyster bars, salt marshes, and other titles creek of the North River, which joins the Matanza River to form Matanza Bay, St. Augustine Harbor. This tidal estuary was a rich source of food. Analysts of faunal remains found at the site by the team zoo archaeologist Elizabeth Rees indicate that the Mosaic villages had a diet very similar to that of the nearby Indian communities, with a heavy dependence on marine protein and wild foods. All right. So this is what they found when they did the excavation. They found that basically these people were growing their own crops, maintain their own, maintain their own housing. They had men that were protecting the community. They had relations with the Native Americans, where some were married to them, and then there were those who married other refugees, and there was those who married the slaves. So let's see what else we can find on here. And it says park facility and archaeological excavation in 1986, led by Kathleen A. Dagan, and historian Jane Landers revealed the site of their original Fort Mose, as well as the second facility constructed in 1752. Today, artifacts are displayed in the museum within the visitor center at the park. On the grounds, interpretive panels are used to illustrate the history of the site. 3 replicas of historic items have been installed within the park: a choza or cooking hut, a small historic garden, and a small Spanish flat boat called barca chata. All right. So there's information at the bottom where you can look at if you want to find out more information. Here's the references at the bottom of the page. So we always use facts. You always want to go ahead and look at the reference to make sure that it verifies the source. Okay. So let's see. Stop the screen. Then I got something else I want to show y'all real quick. All right. So this article right here is called the Zoo Archaeological Analyst or analysis of a free African community. Garcia Ria de Santana Teresa de Mose. All right. So written by Elizabeth J. Riggs. Okay. Um, all right, so I just read the introduction and the rest you can look up for yourself. So the introduction say many studies of the early Africans in the Americas focus on the lives of slaves. It is important to learn about the African life where the greatest freedom to express cultural continuity and or change may have existed outside the constraints imposed by slavery. While studies of the processes by which African heritage was transplanted, replaced, or reinterpreted in the Americas can be accomplished within the context of studies of slavery, free Africans may have enjoyed better opportunity for cultural exchange with other Americans and unhindered development of African cultural tradition than did slaves. Unfortunately, there have been few archaeological studies of free Africans and quantified studies of their use of animals are particularly rare. Archaeological research at Garcia Rey de Santana Teresa de Mose, right, near St. Augustine, Florida, provides a unique opportunity to examine African food waves and what may have been the first legally sanctioned free African community within the borders of the present day United States of America. Now, let's see, this article was written in 1994, okay? It says Mosaic provides an opportunity to do three things: examine animal use by free Africans, explore the lives of Africans in a Spanish context, and study African animal use in the early 18th century. Very little is known about the archaeological manifestation of free Africans. Published studies offer free quantified details, especially for remains associated with animal use. All right. So the excavated materials from Mosaic provide a unique opportunity to study the use of animals by these people. However, the Mosaic material provide more than just an opportunity to explore animal use by African living as free men and women. It is commonplace to think of African in North America primarily as slave within British or American society. All right, so it says North America would be used henceforth to refer to those lands north of Mexico. Yet the free residents of Mosaic operate within a Spanish sphere of influence. Thirdly, Mosaic was founded in 1738 by the Spanish crown, which means that some, if not most, residents of Mosaic were born in Africa and may have spent only a few years as slaves in British or other Spanish colonies. Although it is not possible to state precisely how many residents of Mosaic were African born, a very large percentage probably were. To emphasize this point, the common term African American would not be used in this article. The Mosaic data therefore address many important gaps in present knowledge of African life in North America. Before presenting the final data from Mosaic, a brief history of the community will be provided and animal used by other ethnic groups in the area will be summarized. First, however, the environmental setting will be described. All right, so that's the introduction of this article. And they talk about the archaeological research that was done, the excavation that took place. So, yes, again, you can find this up for yourself. Let me go ahead and zoom in. Zoological analysis of a free African community, Garcia Rio de Santana Teresa de Mose. Okay. Historical Archaeology, 1994, volume 28, number 1, page 23 to 40. It was published by Springer. All right. So there's the information. Okay, so let me see how much time I got left. Okay, so I gotta make this pretty quick. All right, so I want to show you guys a video clip from Professor Henry Louis Gates. Okay. Let me cut.
In the late 1600s, rival imperial powers, Spain and England, shared a border near what became South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Any slave who escaped to Florida from the British colonies was granted their freedom. For the enslaved, Spanish Florida became the first promised land. In 1738, a small group of black people created their own town near St. Augustine. They called it Fort Mose, the first all-black settlement in what is now the United States.
Enslaved folk in South Carolina realized that if they reach Florida, that is not controlled by the English, perhaps they can seek refuge.
300 miles north of Fort Mose, near the Stono River just outside of Charleston, word of the free town to the south reached a group of slaves. This inspired one of the largest slave revolts in the history of the British colonies. One morning in 1739, a group of about 20 black men set out before dawn. As they traveled, they set fire to plantations. Nearly 100 slaves joined them for the journey. When word of the fugitives' rebellion spread, local militiamen were mobilized, and a brutal battle ensued. Many were killed in the clash, and black rebels who were later captured were tried and beheaded in an effort to instill fear. To discourage future rebellions, harsh new slave laws were imposed, including forbidding teaching slaves to read. Within a year, British colonial forces seized Florida from Spain, and Fort Mose was destroyed. But the Stono Rebellion wouldn't be the last time that enslaved black people in the British colonies risked everything to gain their freedom. The drive among black people to end their enslavement would never die.
Okay, you guys. That's all the information for today. So I thank you all for watching. I thank you all for tuning in. So until next time, we will reconnect. Please be safe out here. May peace and power elevation be to all of you. Thank you guys for watching. And I will talk to you all later. All right. So take it easy on yourself. All right, then. Peace.